Greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this second half, shall we? I talked a little bit about a person who reached out to me and wanted to share a Dogman experience that happened to his very good friend, a person that he's been friends with for pretty much all his life. They grew up together, living down the road from each other. They did not go to school with each other, one, because one of them is Amish, and the friend that reached out to me, he is referred to as the English. So his friend, who we will refer to as Jacob, the Amish kid, and the only reason why, and that is not his name, the reason why he came up with that name is because there is at least 15 to 20 Jacobs that live in this Amish community in Western New York. And so he said, let's just refer to him as Jacob, and I will change my name as well, just in case anyone ever hears this. I don't want him and his family to get in any kind of trouble. So friend will be Ryan, English Ryan, and Amish Jacob. So apparently a couple years back in actually 2022, in the early winter, late fall, early winter, Jacob had seen something, and he had shared it with his dad, and that's as far as Ryan went with me. There was more. He said there was more to the experience, but he wanted to make sure that he had express permission from his friend and to get a little more detail on everything that went down. Now, I was not aware of this, but the Amish community is in Cattaraugus County, New York, in a town called the town of Leon. And apparently, by even this family telling anyone in their community, in this Amish community, that they had an experience with a cryptid or the paranormal, that could lead them to getting shunned. They do not believe in the paranormal. They do not believe in cryptids. Anything of that nature is just strictly referred to as the devil. And, if I were Amish and I had this experience happen to me and my family, I think I would think it was the devil, to be honest with you. It is that frightening. So I want to share this experience with you guys. I just wanted to set the tone, and I will share the location and kind of setup of the property, and then we'll jump into the experience. The setup is very important. And I said, well, if by chance someone hears this, I don't know how, because, they don't have internet or anything like that, but, would the way I'm describing their property, would that be kind of noticeable, or could someone, figure out who it was? And he said no, because a lot of these houses that are in this community are set up pretty much the same way. And he lives among the Amish, or the Amish live among them, the English. And that's how he and Jacob became friends. Actually, he was riding his bike down this dirt road that he lives off of about 15 years ago. And they became best of friends. And it is accepted by his family. And I guess Jacob is allowed to go and spend time at Ryan's home. He just can't partake in a lot of the modern equipment and modern amenities that we have now. I imagine he does, though, so let's get into it. So this occurred in the town of Leon and in Cattaraugus County, New York. And their property is off of a dirt road. The father owns about 8 acres of land, and they have a long driveway extending up into their land from the dirt road. Their home is pretty much centered in that 8 acres, but closer to the wood line in the end of the acreage. So all of their planting area and any kind of work area is in the front part going toward the road. Their home is away from the road to avoid any kind of interaction with tourists. A lot of tourists go down these roads and, are kind of disrespectful to this community. They don't want to be photographed. They don't want to be bothered. It's not something they do for show for us, the modern people, the English. It's a way of life for them. And so when the father built his home, he built it as far away from the road as possible, so there was privacy. And so Jacob is the eldest child. He has 3 sisters. His mom, his 3 sisters, and his dad all live in this house. So 6 family members. And this occurred late fall, early winter of 2022. Now, being that they are Amish, they do not have electricity, they do not have gas. They use wood for heating and wood for cooking, and we're coming up into the fall winter time of the year. Obviously, they do have a stockpile of their firewood, but he's going out and picking up branches and any kind of sticks, cleaning up their property before winter really hits. A lot of kindling and stuff. And that was what he was doing on this day when this occurred. It was kind of his job for the day to, one, gather this wood, but by also gathering the wood off of the ground and branches that were falling off of trees and such, cleaning up and taking care of the property, which the father had a lot of pride in, or does have a lot of pride in his property, even though there is not the modern day amenities. So he is out just gathering up this wood, kindling and such, and he is at the edge of his dad's property on the far side, going towards, there's another piece of property which another Amish family lives on, and after that property, there is a large kind of river that runs through this area. So he is in this kind of tree line area, gathering, he's gathering his sticks and such. And all of a sudden he hears this kind of faint noise at first. And it sounded like someone threw a rock at a metal sign. That bink, bink. He heard that a couple of different times, and he kind of peers over to the wood line. And it's daytime, even though it's fall. It's about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's still pretty bright out. The sun is out, and he hears these noises, and he's looking, trying to locate where the sound is coming from. And he hears a bunch of kind of rustling in the woods. And as he notices this rustling sound, he sees this just eruption of light. And it's so bright, and it's in the woods, but it's so bright that it actually lights up the day. You know, it's brighter than the sun. So he stops, and he's very nervous because this is something he's never seen before. And all of a sudden, the light kind of just fades, and out of the woods comes walking this just huge creature. It resembled a wolf, and it ran out on all four. It didn't notice him at all, this first kind of sighting of the creature. So it comes out of the woods, and where he is standing, it is down from him and kind of going, it's facing the neighbor's property, facing that river/creek, and he's just watching it. He's not hidden, but he's got a set of woods behind him, and he's staring at this creature that came out of the set of woods that kind of like circled him. And he's really baffled because he's never seen a wolf. He's never seen, he's seen coyote. Obviously, he's seen dogs, but this thing is massive. It's jet black and gray. More so a grayish black. He does not see any kind of brown on this creature. Ryan is into Bigfoot. He really likes to listen to Bigfoot experiences and such. He found my channel. Obviously, YouTube recommended the channel, and he's listened to this channel for a couple months now. So he started to ask him, did it have brown on it, or was it, just black and gray? And it was just like almost a charcoal colored, just beautiful creature. He said it was a beautiful creature until that's what Jacob's mind told him. He said it was this beautiful creature. And I'm thinking, here's this beautiful creature of God coming out of the woods that I'm seeing, trying to figure out what that light was. And all of a sudden it stands. It just stands up on its hind legs. It doesn't turn to face him. It doesn't give him any mind. It just stands up and continues to run in the same direction that it was when it came out on all fours. Just straight through that property, kind of at a diagonal angle toward the river/creek area. And he had this bundle of sticks and such, and just started running home, got home, put all the sticks that he had collected. He had dropped a few piles during the day to come back and pick up. That's what he was going to do. Is, you know, added all these piles, and then after he was done gathering, he'd bring one pile back, bring another. So he was very hesitant about going back because of what he saw. Immediately, because of his religion and what his beliefs are, he thinks, you know, this is a devil. This is, you know, some sort of demon, you know, and not a dogman. Automatically, they assume everything is the devil or devil related, not of God. So he's got to go back and pick up a couple of these big bundles of kindling and you know, firewood that he has collected throughout the day. He does very hesitantly. He gets back and puts everything in this building off the barn where they keep their firewood and kindling wood to keep it dry throughout the winter. His dad is in the barn taking care of the animals for the night, and his dad notices that something's wrong. Jacob does not tell anyone this night about anything that he had witnessed, because out of fear of getting in trouble with the community and the higher ups in his order. So he doesn't even tell his dad. But his dad, knowing his son, can automatically sense that there's something wrong with him. He questioned him a couple different times. You know, what is bothering you? Nothing. Everything's good. And he kind of just really put it to the side. He didn't want to think about it because he felt that if I think about this more, it will just, the devil will know that I am thinking about him, and he will come and he will cause, you know, bad things to happen to my family. So I'm just going to forget about it. All right. So 4 or 5 days later, Jacob and his dad are working together. End of the day. And so they're kind of doing their end of the day chores. And his father has this very large barn. It's 2 or 3 times the size of their home. And their home is a decent sized home. And it's just huge. So in the winter, in the early fall, throughout the winter, up until spring, they move their animals into the barn. There is a section of the barn that houses the chickens year round, kind of like a chicken coop. But they have some cows, sheep, goat, and they bring them in to make sure, you know, they're cared for, fed, everything warm in the winter. So that's what he's doing with his dad, cleaning everything out, making sure there's no, you know, kind of waste around, cleaning that, making sure they have adequate enough food for the evening, and everything set. As they're getting done with that, Jacob's dad tells him, you know, go and get a handful of firewood and wait for me. I'll get another handful and we'll go in for the night and we'll go have dinner, yada yada. Jacob's not thinking about the event that occurred 4 or 5 days later, or 4 or 5 days earlier. He's, you know, kind of put it off to the side in his head. He's like, okay. He goes out, and off to the side of their barn is where there's another addition to their barn where they, once again, put all their firewood and such to keep it dry. And they have, you know, their regular large chunks of wood and kindling separated and such. So he goes in and waits for his dad because they're, load each other up and carry the wood in. His dad shuts the barn, comes back and through, gets the wood, and they proceed to walk to their home. The distance between their home and the barn is not really close together. It's a good distance apart. It's, we're not talking super far away, but it's not right next to their house. There's a good distance, They're walking, and they're about halfway between the barn and the house. And all of a sudden, they're in mid-conversation, talking about whatever they talk about. All of a sudden, there is that noise, and this is the way Jacob described it to Ryan. Once again, it was like if something hit a metal sign, if you took a handful of stones and chucked it, that kind of just that ping, that twinging noise. And they're halfway between the house and the barn, and that noise kind of just all of a sudden happens. And it's coming from behind their barn off to the side where the field starts, where the fence ends, or where their kind of yard ends and their fields begin. And Jacob stops and he's looking around. He's got this real startled look in his eyes. His dad, not being a dumb guy at all, knowing his son, hears the noise as well. And he looks, but he sees his son's face and he can see fear. Like he sees just this, almost like a recognizable, his son recognizes this noise. I don't know this noise, but how does he know what this, and his dad asks him, what's this noise? What's this noise, Jacob? And he's looking in the direction. They're both trying to figure out where it's coming from. And a good distance from where they are standing, and I'm not even going to attempt to give you distances because Ryan couldn't give me accurate distances, but a good distance away, maybe a half a football field from where they were standing would be to where that fence, their wooden fence behind their barn began, and that's where all of their farming crop fields start. And it's a gray day. It's almost night. The sun was not out this day, so it was a very kind of gloomy, wintry day. And as they're looking, they see this kind of just light off to the side of their barn, and beyond that field, or beyond that the fence line, just kind of pop open. And Jacob immediately recognizes that sound and recognizes the light, and he drops the wood, and he says whatever he calls his dad, let's go, let's run to the house, Dad, let's get out of here, Dad. His dad is kind of stuck looking at this light because it's just this bright white light. And I brought this up to Ryan. I said, I wonder if, and he can't ask Jacob's dad about any of this because Jacob was sworn to secrecy by his father, by his family, the whole family, the sisters, the mother, the father, all swore to a family secret. And if anyone in their community ever found out, like any of the elders or higher ups found out, they would get shunned for doing nothing wrong, just for hiding something evil from the community. all of a sudden it's just bright. And I said, so I wonder if he thought that white light, I wonder if his dad thought that this white light is something pure and good at first. And he said, that's a really interesting way to think about it, but who knows? So Jacob drops the wood and he's kind of jogs up ahead, stops and looks. His dad's still staring and still in the same spot. Jacob kind of pulls on his dad's arm. Let's go, let's go. And he starts to pick up what he had dropped. And as he's picking up the wood, he hears his father mumble something in their native Amish tongue. And he looks over, and that's when out of this light, it was just this kind of ball of white light. They see a head come out of the light. You can't see its body. You can just see a head coming out of this light, this portal. And it makes its way out. Another one makes its way out. There's two of these creatures standing, just come out of this light. The light is still just radiating. A third comes out, and the father says, that the devil, and he starts yelling at Jacob, go to the house. And they both get to the house and shut the door. They are peaceful people. That's one thing that, they really don't fear like what we fear. They have locks on their doors, but they are old-fashioned locks, just like a lock to keep the door shut. Nothing like we have, the English have, where we lock our doors because we know people are going to break in. These poor people just, don't recognize the world that we truly live in. They have their own kind of way about them. So they go in, and the father is in a panic. Jacob, you take the wood and get your mother. And he's saying a prayer as he's looking out the window, out toward the barn, in their kind of mudroom area. Not a modern day mudroom, but, whatever it would be called, vestibule part of the house. And he's looking out, and Jacob runs and gets his mom and, says, there is something out in our yard. Dad wants you. The mom goes and looks, and she lets out this scream. And he automatically knows that. Why? Because he's seen one of these things. He runs out from the kitchen area because he had put the wood in the kitchen area for the cooking and the heat. And what he peeks over his parents, and he sees that there are now, instead of 3, there is 4 of these things, all standing bipedal. And they're staring, at the barn, at the house, and kind of looking around, moving their heads, just looking. But 1 or 2 are staring at the barn, and the rest are staring at the house. And the father kind of, looks at his son and says, how did you know that? Why did, everything change when you heard that noise and then saw that light? I recognized there was something wrong. And he says to his dad something along the line as, I saw one of these things the other day. I saw one of the devils the other day, or demon, whatever. And, his father kind of hits him like in the arm, like, you should have told us. You not like an abusive hit, but like kind of like, wake up, and why didn't you tell us? And he kind of just shakes his head, and I don't know. He tells his brother to, or his son, get your sisters, be a brother, get your sisters and get them, to the back of the house, get them safe. Bring me my shotgun. And I never thought Amish had shotguns or any kind of firearms at all. Apparently they do have, not like we have AR-15s and, Ruger PC carbines. They have a shotgun, and it's a tool. They don't go to the range to shoot. They have it for a tool to control pests, to put down an animal if it's really in that bad of pain or whatnot, or dying. But at this point, he's going to have to use it as a defense, and it's considered hell, Dogman, pest, right? But he said to his father, you can't shoot this. You can't. This isn't God's way. And when Jacob told Ryan that, Ryan said, what do you mean? And apparently that if it was meant to happen, it was meant to happen. And that, so if these creatures attack their home, it was God's plan, more or less. They're pacifists, but his father at this point was not about to let anything like these things, something that he has never heard of, something that he has never even thought imaginable. They don't have TV. They didn't see Silver Bullet or American Werewolf in London. This is a friggin' demon. But he is not going to let these things hurt his family. Nor is he in his mind going to say, this is God's will, that these things come and hurt my family, hurt my daughters, hurt my wife, hurt my son. It'd be one thing if they went in the barn and killed the animals, but he's not going to let them hurt his family, which they did go in and kill the animals. So he runs, gets his sisters to the back of the house. There's a room behind the kitchen where they have like a dual fireplace where the mom cooks and heats the house, that portion of the house, part of the upstairs. It's really just a huge, huge fireplace. And he gets his father's shotgun, and it's just a double barrel shotgun, break action double barrel shotgun. Nothing, not a semi-automatic, not a pump, just double barrel. And he hands his father his gun, and he gets his mom, and his mom, says, no, I'll stay with your father. But she's praying loudly. And dad's not going out of the house, but he has that shotgun. They're all standing looking at these creatures. One starts to walk toward the house. 3 of them have gone into the barn, and what I just said, went and, killed the animals. They pretty much tore everything apart in that barn. But the one that is not in the barn that had initially stared at that house is starting to walk toward the house. They are looking. It's almost like it's looking at them and they are looking at it. And there is eye contact. It has made eye contact with the mom, the dad, and Jacob. And it's walking. And Jacob told Ryan, he said, it had intelligence. It had an expression on its face like it knew we were afraid. And it actually got pleasure from knowing that we were afraid. But it smiled. You know, it smiled as like an expression of happiness that we were afraid, and happiness that these other, the other three were killing our livestock, killing our livelihood. So they immediately, push things against the door, push things against the wall, and the father stays and he says to his son, take your mother and pray loud. These demons won't come into our house if we pray. And the father's out. Jacob can hear his dad praying. He's listening because he's very concerned for his dad. And he hears what he thought was his dad's scream. But it was not his dad. It was one of these creatures outside of their home. And he left his mom and sisters and ran to make sure his dad was okay, because he thought that noise was his dad going outside and that he had gotten attacked while being outside. So he ran and he saw his dad and he knew. He's like, okay. So he stands next to his dad and his father tells him, pray. They're both praying together. His father's holding the shotgun and he puts his hand and he holds Jacob's hand and he says, pray with me. Our prayer together will stop these creatures from coming and hurting us. And your sister's prayer and your sister's and your mother's prayer will do the same. We will be okay. They get praying and they lost sight of that one that was staring at them. And he doesn't know. He said to Ryan, I don't know how we lost sight of it. It was like it disappeared in front of us. We were staring at it this whole time and praying, but it wasn't there. Like it was like we blinked and it was gone. The father kind of peeks out the window. He stopped praying and he sees the three coming out of the barn. They were not all the same color. There was one that he believes was the one that he had seen a few days prior, and that one was coming out of the barn. The one that was staring at them was a lighter color grayish. There was a couple of, the other two were like a brownish black. They could tell that they had attacked their animals. There was, blood and, just debris on their claws, on their mouths, and these three are now walking toward the house. His father grabs his hand and starts praying again. And Jacob closes his eyes and he opens his eyes again to see how close they are. And as he opens his eyes, he feels his father's hand, like very strong man, very strong, works with his hands all his life, kind of grip his, practically break his hand out of fear or whatever, because when he opened his eyes, his father shuddered, and that one Dogman they lost sight of was now like nose to window staring into their house. And he could feel the growl. He could feel it in his chest. And he started praying more and asking God to help them, asking God for forgiveness, whatever they were asking for. They run, his father and him run back to the back of the house where his mother and sisters are. And they kind of go back, shut that door, and the father kind of talks to everybody, tells everybody, God is with us. God will get us through this. I'm going to start the fire. We all need to pray. We will all be okay. Just do not lose faith. He starts the fire. That way, it's warm, but that fireplace opens up. So there's a door and a wall, and the fireplace sits here. And you can see through the fireplace to their kitchen. The father and grandfather of Jacob had built this house, and both were just expert builders. So he starts the fire and they start to pray. They can hear knocking on their walls all around their house. They can just hear a loud amount of noise coming from all around their home. And all throughout the night, the girls are crying, his sisters are crying, but everybody is praying. He and his sisters end up falling asleep somehow at some point, and he's woken up the next morning by his mother shaking him. It's over. It's over. God saved us. God saved us. We are okay. You need to go with your father and kind of look around and see if everything's okay. Because when he wakes up, he sees his mom, he sees his sisters, but he doesn't see his dad. His dad's out in the kind of vestibule area looking out the window when he walks out of this back room through the kitchen and into the area. And his dad kind of turns and looks at him and, says, praise God, something. And they go outside, and immediately his dad just straight line right to, and the thing is, his dad's not even carrying his shotgun. The gun is back in the house. That's how pacifist these people were and are. His dad goes to the barn, and Jacob's not far behind him, and his dad enters the barn first, and he can hear his father kind of say something, and there's just pain in his voice because he realizes that their livelihood is gone. That those animals that they had, they lived on, milk, eggs, the occasional they'd raise cow to eat, and, the sheep and this and that. But everything that they had, they essentially lived off of. Everything had a purpose. And their livelihood is gone. They walk out. They walk around the house to see if there's any kind of damage. And they see in the snow isn't that deep. It's that kind of maybe an inch. But they see these prints all around the house. these just large kind of bipedal between human feet, but with kind of claws extending off of the toes. I said, were they 3-toed feet? To Ryan, and he said, I honestly didn't ask. He said, and I don't think Jacob would have even counted that. He just said they look like large human feet, but with what appeared to be talons or claws off their feet. Walk around, and there's no damage to the home. There's no like claw marks and broken windows. There's nothing. So they get back in the house, and his dad tells his mom what happened out in the barn. And, she's just upset, but, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep this? We can't tell anybody what just happened. No one would probably believe this, and they would then think that somehow one of our family members did something so bad to attract this attention to us. And that was what they were afraid of. They didn't want to get in trouble with the elders. So what the decision is we as a family will never speak to anyone in our community about this. We will figure something out. They went, I don't know what they said, but they had to take care of the animals that had gotten slaughtered. Ryan doesn't know what Jacob's family said to the community, because they had to go and buy more animals, from other Amish or from people in the English community that they were allowed to deal and do business with. So they had to keep that their animals had all been killed or died. And they ended up figuring out a way of keeping that from the community, the Amish community. And right about sometime after this had happened, there was a large snowstorm that ripped through lake effect snows. This is Finger Lake region of New York, so there's a lot of lake effect snow in this area. So that snowstorm covered the tracks around their home. They had to clean up their barn, figure out a way of discarding the remnants of the old animals, the carcass and such. It was just a very terrible, event that happened to these people. Fear of their community, fear of these creatures, that losing your livelihood, that'd be like losing all of your money that you have saved in your bank. These people losing their animals like that. Thank God nothing ever happened again. There was never any other sighting on their property after this. And Jacob thinks that because all 6 of them had kind of gathered together and prayed so strongly to God that God saved their lives that night, and that their community never found out what happened to their animals, to their home, what they saw. And I said, well, after all this, how long was it before you saw your friend Jacob. And he said, we see each other periodically in the winter, but we see each other more in the spring and summer and sometimes in the fall, but not a lot because they have to prepare for the winter. Jacob had brought this up to Ryan one day when they were doing something. I think they were fishing or something, and they were talking about, Bigfoot, because Ryan had been wearing a Bigfoot t-shirt, the Bigfoot t-shirt from Q Centerfire Rifles, where Bigfoot's got a sugar weasel and a 6-pack of beer, and he's kind of walking through the woods. He had that shirt on, and Jacob had brought something up like, why do you have that shirt of the devil on you? Why are you wearing the devil on your? And he said, this is Bigfoot. This isn't the devil. And just kind of laughed, and he said, well, I know that that's the devil because something like that, but this is what it was. It looked like a wolf, but it stood like a human. And instantly Ryan knew that was a Dogman. And he told Jacob, what Dogmen were, that nobody knows where they come from, if they are demonic, dimensional, whatnot. And he said, I know, this young man, I know they are demonic because I saw them come from hell and attack my family and attack our farm. So I know that they are demons, and you shouldn't wear that shirt. And he told Ryan the experience, and Ryan immediately was like, wait, what? What happened to you? Are you okay? Is your family okay? Is your, sisters, everybody's good? But he's like, you cannot tell anyone this. Our family, my mother, my father, my sisters all swore to secrecy that we would never talk about any of this. So, whenever you do run into my dad, don't say anything about these things because we don't want our community to find out. Ryan knows bits and pieces of their traditions and customs a lot more than I do, obviously. But he still kind of said to Jacob, like, but these things came from a bright light, a portal. How are you responsible for it? And he said, because our community, our elders would view it as someone in our family did something so bad that these demons came and punished us for our sins, for our misgivings. And, he said, I will never tell anybody, but these things are not Bigfoot. These are called Dogmen. About a year later is when Ryan found my channel on a recommendation. Decided to share it with me because, one, he's from New York and I'm from New York. And I talk about Dogman, but just a terrifying experience. But I felt like it was very interesting because, one, did they go away? Here's what I was thinking. Prayer does work. Obviously, we know prayer works. But did they not attack because there was no outer aggression? The dad, when he held Jacob's hand, Jacob opens his eyes, and there's that one standing there. His dad shudders. Most of us, I know I would have pulled up my gun and shot the thing in the face.
Did they not attack because of the prayer and because of the lack of aggression from this family? Who knows? Who knows? But 100% I can see why this family would automatically assume, or not assume, automatically believe that that bright light was a doorway to hell, and that's where these creatures came from. So it's pretty intense. Once again, Jacob's real name is not Jacob. There's literally, he said, there's like 15 to 20 different Jacobs in that community, Jeff. So, and that's not even his name. So, one, if anyone ever heard this in that Amish community, they'd get in trouble for saying, "Hey, I heard this." So, I mean, I just don't want to share his real given name. So, but fucking scary, man.
And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting this channel. It is your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and honestly what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love about and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.